A very good evening. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios right here in Colombo with prime time news. I'm Mahina Bongso. Here's a look at your headlines for tonight.
MP Vasudeva Nanayakkara tells the Public Utilities Commission to pay the loss incurred by the public due to the power outages. 769 kilograms of cocaine publicly destroyed. President says he is in possession of the list of inmates sentenced to death. US Embassy says America is not building a military base in Sri Lanka, nor does it have any plans to do so in the future. Test cricket captain Dimuth Karunaratne apologizes and regrets recent accident in Colombo.
The general public responded to the difficulties they have been facing as a result of the recent intermittent power cuts.
Businesses in many parts of the island have closed down due to the power cuts. In addition, this is how the residents of Colombo were inconvenienced due to the water cuts in the city.
කීකි දරුවෝ ඉන්නවා වතුර ටික කපලා වතුර ගත්තේ සල්ලි වලට. ඉතින් එහෙන් පිටිම අසාධාරණ ආණ්ඩුවක් මේක නම් එහෙන් පිටින්ම টয়ලට් එකට යන්නවත් වතුර ටික ගන්නවා.
No one is taking responsibility for this, not the electricity board, not the minister, nor the MPs. Without prior notice, they are cutting the water along with electricity. We have no way to eat or drink. They only care about the black money that they get into their pockets. We have to believe that this is what happens when these people don't get their commissions.
අපි වැඩ කරන්නේ අරලා තියෙන්නේ ඒත් අපි ජෙනරේටර් එක පාවිච්චි කරන ඉඳලා. තවත් පැයක් දෙකක් විදුලිය කැපුවොත් මේ තීරණ ව්‍යාපාර ස්ථාන වසා දමන්න වෙනවා. මම දැන් ගෙදර යන්න ලෑස්තිලා ඉන්නේ. වැඩ කරන්න විදියක් නැහැ කරන්ට් එක නැහැ.
ගෝලේ තුන්දෙනෙක් මංගාව වැඩ. ඉතින් එයාට පඩි වැඩ ඇතනට පඩි දෙන්න ඕනේ. මන්ට දැන්ට මේ බන් තියෙන වාහන
එහෙන් සිංහල අලුත් අවුරුද්දක් එනවා. ළමයෙකුට රෙදිපිලි කෑල්ලක් ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ.
Meanwhile, parliamentarian Vasudeva Nanayakkara says that the public must be compensated for the losses they incur due to power disruptions.
MP Vasudeva Nanayakkara arrived at the Public Utilities Commission this evening and submitted his requests.
When we calculate the losses we incur due to power disruptions, there is approximately a loss of 120 rupees per unit. The consumer must be compensated for this loss. We are charged a fixed fee for power consumption monthly in addition to the supply of power. So this fixed fee must also be reduced. This crisis has arisen due to the problems that have prevailed during the past 4 years, mainly due to the delay in constructing the power plants. This commission had provided the necessary recommendations in this regard. However, the government failed to construct these power plants. This is the reason for the power crisis. When we look into this matter, we have identified that a group of powerful individuals are behind this. The CEB is now compelled to purchase power from the private sector at 50 rupees per unit due to the government's failure to construct the power plants.
The Public Utilities Commission said that steps regarding the MP's request will be taken after considering the relevant laws and acts and obtaining legal advice in this regard.
Let's now take a look at the cartoon of the day by Lasanta Laduahete. President Maithripala Sirisena reiterated his views on the enforcement of the capital punishment to those convicted of drug trafficking.
After the Sinhala Tamil New Year, a new program inclusive of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Army, the Police Special Task Force, the Police Narcotic Bureau and the Customs will be introduced to combat the drug menace. We will also build new drug rehabilitation camps. As per current plans, It has been determined that illegal drug trafficking can be eradicated in Sri Lanka within a period of 2 years. When we talk about drug eradication, punishment is vital. Death penalty in Sri Lanka is legalized within the constitution. However, it is yet to be enforced. Not enforcing the death penalty is the reason for the increase in underworld activities and drug trafficking. We will enforce the death penalty in the near future. We have already prepared the name list for this as well. We cannot develop our country without enforcing punishment. Even Lord Buddha in his teachings state that punishment is needed to correct human beings.
බුදුන් වහන්සේත් දේශනා කළා තිබෙනවා දණ්ඩනය කියන එක දඬුවම එක තියෙන්න ඕන මිනිසුන් හදන්න කියලා.
A total of 769 kilograms of cocaine, which was seized in the recent past, were destroyed today before President Maithripala Sirisena in Kelaniya. The cocaine destroyed today includes the 301.235 kilograms of cocaine seized by the police on the 21st of July 2016 in Orugodavatta. The 250 kilograms of cocaine seized by customs on the 9th and 24th of November 2016 in Orugodavatta and Kelaniya. And the 216.435 kilograms of cocaine seized on the 19th of July 2017 at the Economic Centre at Ratmalana. The large hauls of cocaine were destroyed under the supervision of the Colombo Magistrate and the Mount Lavinia Chief Magistrate, with the assistance of personnel from the Government Analysts Department and the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board.
The process is cocaine in its solid form is liquidated through a chemical process. The liquidated cocaine is then put into 4 tanks. The 4 tanks will then be transported under police supervision to INSEE's cement factory in Puttlam and would be vaporized at the cement factory under temperatures between 1800 and 2000 degrees Celsius. This temperature is equal to 1/3 of the sun's temperature. We have obtained the Attorney General's advice in this regard. The process aims to minimize environmental damage.
If you take a comparison between the years and how this value has increased, from 2010 to 2014, the value of cocaine that had been arrested is 333 grams, but from 2015 to 2019, that value had gone up to 1,809 kilograms. In 2010 to 2014, the stock of heroin that has been seized stood at 671 kilograms in this time period, but between 2015 to 2019, that value had gone up to 1,984 kilograms. From 2010 to 2014, the number or the stock of Kerala ganja that had been seized stood at 487,200, but from 2015 to 2019, that value stood at 23,754 kilograms.
Now, recently claims were made that there is a local office of the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the USA located at the Temple Trees. When parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa made this claim, Minister Sagala Ratnayaka challenged him and said that there is no such office in the Temple Trees. MP Vimal Veeravansa responded to Minister Sagala Ratnayaka in Anamaduwa yesterday.
I say this with much responsibility. There is no corporate branch of Millennium Challenge Corporation or any other American company at Temple Trees. You are just shouting to gain media attention. Minister Sagala Ratnayaka, I will prove this today and you must resign from your position. I have found a letter with the heading of the Prime Minister's office. This letter was created on the 15th of February 2019 and was forwarded to W.H. Karunaratne, the Secretary of the Ministry of Land and Parliamentary Reforms. R. Sirivardhana, the National Consultant Coordinator at the Sri Lankan office of Millennium Challenge Corporation, has signed the respective document. The address stated in the letter is 2nd floor, New Building, North Wing, Temple Trees, Colombo 3. What do you have to say now, Minister Sagala Ratnayaka? If Minister Sagala Ratnayaka and MP Vimal Veeravansa were to debate in this regard, I think MP Vimal Veeravansa will prove his point. Based on the information we received, these activities take place at Temple Trees. This is not an issue. During our government, I remember that a play was staged at Sirikota. So those who engaged in such activities are capable of doing anything.
අපිට මතකයි ඉතිහාසයේ සිරිකොත ඇතුලේ තමයි අපේ ආණ්ඩුව තියෙන කාලේ සිරිකොත ඇතුල තමයි සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම අර නාට්‍යයක් රඟ දැක්කුවේ. කාන්තාව ගෙනල්ලා ඔවුන්ගේ අය අහිමි වුණා කියලා ඉතිහාසයේ රඟ දැක්කුවා. අපේ ආව දරුවන්ව මරලා කියලා එහෙම කරා.
Speaking in Parliament today, the opposition says that the statements claiming that the government is unable to pay salaries to the public sector employees following the defeat of the expenditure heads are baseless.
An interim account has been approved until April. There won't be any issue with the salaries until the budget is passed and a supplementary estimate is presented. There is also a surplus of funds in an account in the Treasury to be used for emergency situations. Even that account can be used to pay salaries, so there won't be any issue. This wouldn't have been an issue if we had committed to the decision we made at the party leaders meeting. We decided not to go for a vote. That agreement was breached by them. Like on the 26th of October, they stabbed us from the back. Before the statement made by the Prime Minister about salaries during the weekend, the Prime Minister made a statement in Parliament that only 320 rupees had been reduced due to the defeat. He made it sound like it won't be a problem. This has to be passed in Parliament. It was after several meetings, discussions and agreements we had that the opposition conspired to do this, to build a wrong impression before the people. The opposition should be held responsible for this. We are carrying out the duties of an opposition. The government has a responsibility to make their faction available at the voting. Without doing that, they are now pointing the finger at us. If we get another chance, we will defeat it again. This is not something new. Expenditure heads during Ratnasiri Vikramanayaka's time were also defeated. There are ways to correct this. They reached an agreement during the party leaders meeting. The problem is that they breached it.
State Minister Ranjan Ramanayaka and parliamentarian Mohan De Silva engaged in a heated debate in Parliament.
Ranjan Ramanayaka නියෝජ්‍යමතුමාගේ මේ කතාවෙන් පස්සේ කතා කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබීම කතාව කියන එක අපහසුයක් නෙවෙයි. එතුමා කිව්වා මම මන්ත්‍රීවර ඇමතිවරයෙක්ට මගේ කතාව කියලා. එතුමාට ඒ ගැන පරීක්ෂණයක් කරන්න ඕන. එතුමාගේ රූම් එක බුක් කරන්න කියන්නේ මම කොහොම එහෙම මට තියෙන්නේ මොන වගේ කියලා මම පෙන්නන්න එතුමාට ඇවිල්ලා. ඒ කතාවෙන් පස්සේ මගේ කතා කරන්න ලැබිච්ච එක සන්තෝෂ වෙනවා. හැම පැත්තටම දොස් කිව්වා. දොස් නොකිව්වා එතුමාට විතරයි. හැබැයි එතුමාටත් විරුද්ධව නඩුවක් තිබුණා. පර්මිට් එක දෙපාරක් වික්කයි කියලා. ගෑණියෙකුට. පර්මිට් විකුණපු 90% දෙනෙක් තමයි මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉන්නේ. මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා පර්මිට් එක 6 පාරක් විකුණලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් එතකොට තමුන්ගේ පර්මිට් එක තමුන්ට විකුණන්න පුළුවන්. මෙයත් විකුණලා තියෙනවා. පර්මිට් එක විකුණු මේ පර්මිට් එක විකුණු කියන අනිත් එක කියලා. බලදි මූත් විකුණලානේ අකෝ. මාත් වික්කා ඔව්. ඉතින් මට නඩු තිබුණේ නැහැ. මට නඩු තිබුණේ නැහැ. තෝ මොනේ පලම් කද්දා කොමේ ඒ වචනේ ඉලාස් කරගන්න බුදුමල්ලා මගේ විතර නෑ අත්‍තරම අපි කනගාටු වෙන ඔබතුමාගේ කතාව සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
Today is day 15 of the committee stage debate of the 2019 budget. The expenditure heads of the Ministry of Public Administration and the Ministry of Justice and Prison Reforms were debated today.
I believe there is a new case that should be filed at the High Court under the Judicature Act. This is none other than the largest financial crime in the history of Sri Lanka, the central bank bond scam. We're all aware that many individuals largely benefited from this scam and local bank interest rates increased by 2%. The government is compelled to address this issue and act in this regard. What action did the government take during the past few years? More than 8,000 state officers were summoned to the FCID for questioning. This questioning resulted in the disruption of state functions, and therefore when the government gives an order, the state officers disregard them.
During the presidential election, it was our government that promised to conduct judicial proceedings against corruption, theft, waste and financial crimes. There is no need for you to worry.
During the recent past, the Bribery Commission has filed cases. Cases are filed and then withdrawn. A case was filed against MP Johnston Fernando, and when the case is withdrawn, the perpetrator acts like a hero. If a case cannot be filed properly, why was a case filed in the first place? This increases government expenditure. For God's sake, if a case cannot be filed properly, those who file it are better off staying at home. Don't file any cases. When Imran Khan came into power, the former Prime Minister was jailed. When Mahathir Mohamad won election, the former Prime Minister Najib was sent to jail. Marcos was defeated in the Philippines, and when the new Prime Minister or President came into power, Marcos was sent to jail. If we take India, when Karunanidhi comes into power, Jayalalitha is imprisoned, and when Jayalalitha comes into power, Karunanidhi is imprisoned. In a world that acts in this manner, it is only Sri Lanka that fails to do so. Special courts are being established. The central bank bond scam is the largest financial crime in the history of Sri Lanka. The current estimated loss, as per the Auditor General's report, together with the loss identified through the Bond Commission report, reveals a total loss of more than 11 billion rupees. If we combine the post-financial impacts of the bond scam, the losses will increase to trillions. A forensic audit must be conducted in this regard. They say they are conducting such an audit. However, I am not aware of it. The Attorney General's Department can file a case against the bond scam. Arjuna Aloysius and Kasun Palisena were imprisoned for nearly a year. 5 more individuals were apprehended last week. Even if we disregard the two COPE reports, take a look at the Bond Commission report and the section under aiding and abetting. The guidelines and provisions included the Judicature Amendment Act No. 9 of 2018 is relevant to this matter. We consider the nature, severity and complexity of the offence as well as its impact on the state and the financial losses the government had to incur. These cases qualify to be heard by the 3-judge High Court trial at bar. Some even included footnotes.
Speaking on our Newsline program this morning, former senior banker Rusiripala Tennakun commented about the Hambantota oil refinery project.
There are certain very doubtful areas, as we have experienced in many other instances with regard to proposed projects under this government. There are many areas untold, unexplained and creating serious doubts. You know, in economic misery, a small coterie and clique of people, you know, are struggling up, fighting among themselves, competing among themselves to improve their prosperity through corruption and fraud. If there is a wee bit of consciousness, self-conscious, I mean, they should get out.
The final rites of the mortal remains of late Srima Dissanayake were carried out at the Borella Public Cemetery this evening.
President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe paid their last respects to the remains of late Srima Dissanayake yesterday. The wife of late Gamini Dissanayake, Srima Dissanayake, passed away at the age of 76 at a private hospital last Friday. She is the mother of Minister Navin Dissanayake, Parliamentarian Mayantha Dissanayake and Waruni Dissanayake. The cortege left the residence of Minister Navin Dissanayake this afternoon to arrive at the Borella Public Cemetery. The religious activities were carried out by the Mahasangha representing the 3 sects. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, other public representatives and other distinguished people attended the funeral service.
We cannot forget the services rendered by the Gamini Dissanayake family. They were affectionate towards the people and carried out a yeoman service to uplift the country. It is our hope that the children also follow the same path. She was both a mother and a father to our family. Be it our political journey, be it our personal lives, it is because of her talent that we live lives like this. I hope to have her as my mother again in my next birth. She shared both happiness and sorrow with Gamini Dissanayake. She did not give up. That was a special quality that she possessed. I express my condolences to Minister Navin Dissanayake and Parliamentarian Mayantha Dissanayake and wish for the bliss of Nirvana for late Srima Dissanayake. She was a great mother, she was a great spouse, she was a committed social activist. She used her personal wealth to help thousands of people. We hope she attains Nirvana.
The condolence speech of the President was read out by Minister Gamini Jayawikrama Perera. The final rites were carried out after the religious activities. Late Vajra Srimati Dissanayake was the United National Party presidential candidate in 1994.
The Embassy of the United States of America in Sri Lanka provided a clarification today regarding the rumors that are circulating that a U.S. Army base is to be set up in the country.
Upon inquiry, a spokesperson of the United States Embassy in Colombo had confirmed that there are no plans to establish a permanent military base in Sri Lanka. Nancy Van Horn, the U.S. Embassy spokesperson, told Newsfirst that, quote, the United States is not building a military base in Sri Lanka, nor does it have any plans to do so in the future, unquote.
Parliamentarian Udaya Gamanpila expressed his opinion on investigations into the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge during a media briefing held today.
The government is not at all interested in punishing those who were involved with the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge. The present Premier, when he was in the opposition leader back in the day, made a statement in Parliament revealing those who were involved in the murder. Those individuals now are with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is not in a position to file court cases against them. This investigation into the murder of Lasantha Wickrematunge will never see an end, because the real culprits cannot be brought before the law, so they are attempting to falsely accuse other people.
Lasantha ඝාතන කියන විමර්ශනය කවදාවත් අවසන් නොවන විමර්ශනයක් බවට පත් වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
Sri Lanka Test cricket captain Dimuth Karunaratne, who was arrested for causing an accident while under the influence of alcohol, was released on 2 sureties of 100,000 rupees each.
Additional Magistrate Salia Channaberatne, however, temporarily suspended his driving licence. The matter was postponed to the 2nd of May. Dimuth Karunaratne took to social media to apologize for his actions and said he was well aware that it was utterly unbecoming of a Sri Lankan national cricketer and apologized to the owner of the other vehicle who had a few very minor injuries. His statement stressed he had followed the due legal process and had abided by all formalities therein required. He also promised to assist with whatever legal obligations were necessary from his end. Meanwhile, Navindu Ratnayake, the driver of the defender arrested for causing an accident in Bambalapitiya, claiming the life of the Borala Traffic Police OIC Ananda Sagara, was released on 2 sureties of 500,000 rupees each by Colombo Additional Magistrate Chalani Pereira. Sri Lanka Police informed court today the Attorney General had advised to file a case against the suspect at the High Court under the Section 298 of the Penal Code for causing death by negligence. The case will be called again on the 22nd of April.
That took place in the Arakavela area in Ingiriya was caught on camera by a passenger travelling in the vehicle that followed.
This container travelled along the Ingiriya-Colombo main road earlier this morning. The container veered off and toppled off the road at the Akaravila police junction. It collided on a tree after causing damage to a nearby house. Our correspondent said that the accident hampered vehicular movement along the Ingiriya-Colombo main road for a few hours. The driver of the container has fled the scene. The police will be conducting further investigations into the incident.
Issuing a media release, Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaravira says statements claiming that the initial delegation to the United Nations Human Rights Council's 40th session in 2019 was changed are false.
In the statement, the minister says that, quote, there is also an abundance of gossip about the delegation and undignified attacks against devoted public servants, unquote. He added, contrary to what is being said, there were no plans to send anyone to Geneva originally for the 40th session, as they had a competent, experienced, respected diplomat as ambassador to the UN in Geneva. Furthermore, on behalf of the people of Sri Lanka, the minister offers an apology to High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet, who he refers to as a true friend of Sri Lanka's people, a champion of the Global South, and herself a survivor of the horrors of torture. He said, quote, High Commissioner Bachelet, you did not deserve the misrepresentation of your statements, unquote.
That was, of course, a media release issued by the Minister of Finance, Mangala Samaravira. In more local news, foundation stones were laid to the hostel buildings for the Nelligala International Buddhist Center in Kandy today. The ceremony was held under the auspices of Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Minister Sajith Premadasa.
The building is named Sri Shakya Pesa. The construction activities of the building, which was carried out by the Sri Lanka Army, was built with a cost of 98 million rupees.
The people of our country think of President Premadasa with a lot of respect. He served the poor, so the duties carried out by his son as the second in command in the party is commendable. He decides that a particular task should be carried out by a certain deadline and he meets that deadline. That is a quality of a good leader. There were 10 to 15 ministers for the Ministry of Cultural Affairs. Some ministers say that they do not know about the culture. In a country where we see ministers of that nature, we are proud to have you as the Minister of Cultural Affairs. You work according to a long-term vision. Some say that Buddhism is in danger. There are also those who say that the Buddha Sasana has been betrayed. How many temples with less resources have we helped to safeguard the Buddha Sasana? How many chaityas, Dhamma schools and temples have we helped? The constitution states that Buddhism should be given priority. We declared open 214 buildings for Dhamma schools to show the practical aspect of this while talking about prioritizing Buddhism. We safeguard and develop the Buddha Sasana. That is our responsibility and that is our duty.
And that's a wrap from all of us here at the News First English News Desk. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care and good night.